What's up guys, Jacob here, and welcome to the Fortnite Assault Rifles tier list up until Chapter 2 Season 8. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. Also, y'all might see the drum gun and the drum gun variations on there, but that's because Epic has said before that it's an assault rifle, it's an SMG, and they keep going back and forth, so because of that I'm going to include it in both of the tier lists. I'm going to include it in the assault rifle tier list right here, and I'm going to include it in the SMG tier list later down the road. So y'all can't get mad at me for that. Well, y'all can, but just don't. Alright, anyways, let's start this off. First of all, we have 7 tiers. We have OP times 2, OP, great, good, meh, bad, and garboder. Or, if you don't know Pokemon, garbage. I'm pretty sure you can tell by the icon, but yeah. I'm doing this a little bit differently from my music pack tier list. I actually have it already set up. It's in order from left to right. Left is better than the right. So, for example, I think the Primal Assault Rifle is better than the Purple/Gold AK. Now, let's just get into it. So, down in the Garboder tier, we have the Sideways Assault Rifle. Now, this is a new assault rifle added this season in Chapter 2, Season 8. And it's just bad. Like, yes, it can do lots of damage if you get into the overcharge mode, but you can only shoot like 4 shots in the overcharge mode and shoot 8 in general. It can't do damage to builds, it's super inaccurate, you can't do anything at range, pretty much. First shot accuracy doesn't help it that much. It's just not a great weapon, and it needs a buff. Like, make it more accurate, make it so you can shoot more shots before it overheats. Yeah, it's just not great. Down in the bad tier, we have the Mythic one. I decided to put the Mythic one up one since it can do above 50 damage per shot in the overcharge mode. I don't know if the Gold can do above 50, but I know the Mythic can, and just because it's a Mythic, I decided to put it up a little bit higher. I'm pretty sure I don't have any footage of this for this next weapon. It's the First Order Blaster, and from what I remember, it's pretty much exactly the same as the makeshift assault rifle, except Star Wars, which is cool. Like, to be honest, you can just flip the First Order Blaster and the makeshift assault rifle. Like, those are interchangeable, because they're pretty much the exact same thing. Except the other one's cooler, so I'd probably swap them, but I'm not going to do that right now. The makeshift assault rifle, we just talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to go into more detail and show a clip here, of course, because I'm showing clips. And it's a assault rifle that's supposed to be bad. That's what makeshift is in Fortnite. It's supposed to be a worse version. And so it just has a slow fire rate, low ammo count, a lot of bloom, so it's super hard to hit shots. So it's meant to be bad, so it's serving its purpose. Except only in Season 6, because it was only in Season 6 of Chapter 2. In the meh tier, starting to get into a little bit of the mid-tier section, we have the FAMAS, Gray Through Blue Burst Assault Rifle. And I would have put this down in bad if Gavinator didn't like this weapon at times. Sometimes he lasers people with it and he likes it. So and I've had a couple of moments with the FAMAS, so that's why I'm putting it down in meh tier instead of bad. And plus, I don't think it's as bad as the makeshift assault rifle per se. Next, we have a weapon that really upsets me, because I used to love this weapon a lot, the scoped AR. And I was super excited when they had the gold scoped AR, which is right next to it, so we're just going to talk about both at the same time. Yeah, as you can see, there's the gold scoped AR, purple and gold. But this weapon really upsets me. In Chapter 2, Season 2, I think it was, they reworked the scoped ARs. They introduced the purple and gold, and they changed the green and blue one as well. And they made it so they have a slower fire rate, but higher damage. But the damage fall-off is just so bad. Before the rework happened, the scoped AR used to do like 23, 24 damage or something like that. And that's what the current scoped AR does at max range, and the damage fall-off is horrible. The damage fall-off is just so bad, and it does like the same amount of damage as it used to. I'm pretty sure the scoped ARs back then didn't have any damage drop-off, so seeing how these do like the same amount of damage but at a slower fire rate at max range, which is what the scoped ARs are made for, which is range, which is why they have a scope, it's just not epic. I wish they would change it back to how it was, or what they could do is just remove the damage fall-off entirely, but I would still prefer the lower damage, faster fire rate variant of the scoped AR. But removing the damage fall-off wouldn't be too bad either, and I think it would bring it up in the list a little bit. Next, we have the thermal scoped AR, which is kind of like the same thing as the scoped AR now, but it doesn't have any damage drop off, and has thermal vision, which is pretty good. So that's why I'm ranking it higher than the other two, because of the no damage fall off, and the thermal is it's just nice. Next we have the normal drum gun. I miss when this thing was like busted and OP. It'd be like OP times 2 if it never got nerfed from season 4 of chapter 1. I miss trying that out, but the drum gun now, it's okay, I guess. Other SMGs outclass it, and its range as an assault rifle is not great, so yeah, it was in the vault. I think this was like in chapter 2 season 3 era, or chapter 2 season 2. They nerfed the damage of the drum gun from 22-23 to 21-22 for whatever reason. Like, what? It wasn't even in the game, and plus there was like there wasn't even really a reason to nerf it. I don't know why, but they did. It's weird. Anyways, it's just meh now, which is unfortunate. From it used to being the best weapon in the entire game. Next, we have the Gray through Blue AK. If they didn't do the AK rework last season, then it would probably be lower. But I think the rework overall was really good for the AKs, and it made them a lot more useful, a lot more accurate to hit more shots, more damage, lower fire rate, making it feel like the original AK more. Except I feel like the damage drop off might be a little bit worse. I'm not 100% sure on that, and it's not as accurate as it once was when it first came out in chapter 1 season 6, and not as good, but it's better than what it was, and I'll take that. So it's better than what it was since chapter 2 season 1. Going up to the good category, we have the Gray through Blue infantry rifles. Very solid. It can laser people if you're accurate. Like, I love the infantry rifles, but having 2 less shots, I feel like doesn't hinder it a huge, amazingly amount. But it's still a solid weapon overall, I'd say. Next, we have the classic Gray through Blue assault rifle, the lower variants of the Scar. It's just a very average gun, very like right in the middle, really good gun. And I put the suppressed Scar next to it because for what I would have put this. Okay, what makes me upset is that the suppressed Scar, I don't know what they did. It feels like they changed the bloom on it in chapter 2 season 2, and because of that, it's just felt a lot worse, and you don't get as many beams. It's just kind of unfortunate. And because of that, I put it all the way down here next to the normal assault rifle, because I feel like a gold suppressed Scar compared to a blue AR, they're kind of interchangeable, I feel like. So that's why they're right next to each other. Since we just talked about the suppressed Scar, next is the Jules drum gun and the Shadow Midas drum gun. They're the exact same weapon, so we're just going to put them together, even though Shadow Midas does look cooler. So this drum gun, it does more damage, 24 to be exact, and it has an 8.5 fire rate, compared to the normal drum gun's fire rate of 8. And you can beam people with it. Like, some people said it was like horrible, but it was really not that bad. Like, for a mythic, maybe it could be classified as bad as a mythic, but overall as a weapon, it was pretty good. You could still laser people, at least comparing it. At least those people that were saying it was bad were comparing it to Midas's drum gun, which, yes, it's a much worse version, but it's still pretty good, and you can get some good beams. And overall, it's a pretty good weapon. Next, we have the tactical assault rifle. A very good mid-ranged assault rifle, a weapon that both Mills and Gavinator like very much. I enjoy it as well. I've had a lot of beams with it. It's a good weapon, and I enjoyed using it in chapter 2 season 5. It was really good. The tactical assault rifle is really good, and the fact that it uses light bullets as well is really good because they're more common than medium bullets, as most other assault rifles take. Actually, every other assault rifle besides miniguns, which are classified as an assault rifle. So that's why I didn't explain that in the beginning of the video, but miniguns are classified as assault rifles, so that's why. But yeah, the tactical AR, it does have some bad damage drop off, kind of, and only able to do like 17 at max range, but that mid range is where it beams is really good, and I really enjoy this weapon. Next, we have the purple and gold AK. This weapon, it can kind of beam at times. It's solid since the rework last season, like I said with the other AK. And it can do some serious damage, like 44 for gold, that's not too bad. Like, yes, the original gold one did 48, but still, like, this AK is still pretty good, it's not too bad. You can get your fair share of beams, and it's better than what it once was in chapter 2 season 1. Yeah, it's overall not too bad. Next is the Primal Assault Rifle, which was only in chapter 2 season 6. This one's a little bit debatable, because has a higher DPS than the Scar. But the reason I'm putting it down a tier compared to the Scar is this is, as like I said, this is my opinion, but I do not like not having first shot accuracy and bad bloom with it. Like, yes, it's really good as a close range one, as a weapon, especially like using it as an SMG. It does have some utility with that, I will say, yes. And I have been debating about putting it in the great tier. Like, I probably could put it up there and like probably even put it past the burst pulse rifle if I wanted to, but I'm just gonna leave it here in the top of good tier. I've had my fair share of beams with it. It's definitely pretty good, and it could go up in great tier. Just don't get upset. I'm just keep in mind that I do know, and I could put it up there. Next, we have Meowscles Piao Piao rifle. When we were in Chapter 2, Season 2, this was before the rework, of course, it did 44 damage, and it was not too bad. You could get a fair share of beams with it, especially since it had the faster fire rate before the rework. You can get a fair share of beams with it. It wasn't too bad. But if you include the rework, we've never been able to use it, but doing the math, all the AK's damage went up by 3. Like, the gold went from 41 to 44, the purple went from 39 to 42. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they all went up by 3. And if you do the same thing for the Meowscles Piao Piao rifle, that means it would do 47 damage now. And if you combine using the AK now, the reworked one, but more damage up to 47 and more accurate, this is assuming that the stats have been buffed the same amount as the others. And with the lower fire rate, more accuracy and all that, it could possibly be insane and quite good. Because of that, I decided to put it at the bottom of great tier, because we were able to use the version of it that was pretty decent in Chapter 2 Season 2, but it could be a lot more insane if we got to use it with the reworked AKs from Chapter 2 Season 7 onwards. Because of that, I'm going to put it at the bottom of great tier. It could be higher. That's all. It can really only go up in this case. If we got to use it in this reworked version, it could be like pretty high. Like, who knows? It could even go up to OP tier. We don't know that. It probably not, but it could go up in the tier. Next, we have the pulse rifle. When this was first introduced, it was quite bad, actually. It did the same amount as the normal assault rifle, but its hipfire was, yes, a little bit more accurate, but it did the same amount of damage and had a lower fire rate. And when your ADS, it shot super slow, no extra damage, bad damage drop off. It was just horrible. Until they buffed it at the same time as the AK, actually. Later in Chapter 2 Season 7. They kept the hipfire and stuff the same, but they increased the damage of the ADS tremendously. Like, the blue went from 33 to 49, and the mythic went from 38 to 58, I believe, which was kind of insane. So because of that, I think it's actually a really good weapon. Some people still try to avoid using it, but I used it after the rework, and it was quite good. But the Stark Industry rifle, I feel like, it has more utility, which is why I'm putting it up a little bit higher than the normal pulse rifle. It did more damage hipfire and less damage ADS. That's the difference between the two now. The pulse rifle does more damage ADS, less hipfire. Stark Industry rifles does more hipfire, less ADS. But the gold Stark Industry rifle still did over 50 damage if it was gold. And then the hipfire, I believe, was like 41. And then the ADS was 51. And because of that, I feel like the Stark Industries rifle has a little bit more utility. While the pulse rifle does have one extra shot, being 16 ammo in the clip, compared to the Stark Industry rifle's 15, I still feel like the Stark Industry rifle is a little bit better, but they're mostly the same and could be interchangeable. But I'm going to put the Mythic pulse rifle above the Stark Industry rifles, because 38 and 58, it's just very strong, very good. And you can do so much damage, it's great. We already talked about the pulse rifle, so I'm not going to speak about this mythic one too much, but it's pretty good. Next we have the first and I think only exotic assault rifle, at least for now, and it's the burst pulse rifle. And don't really know how to compare to the mythic, because it does 45 damage when you're ADS, but it's a burst. And if you're super accurate, you can hit 2 body shots for 90 or 2 headshots for like 126 or something like that. It can be kind of busted if you're super accurate. While its hipfire is even lower than the blue the blue pulse rifle, its hipfire being at 30. It's just that the ADS, it's super good damage, especially if you're super accurate, and it's pretty fast since it's a burst compared to the normal pulse rifles, which are generally slower. So that's why I'm putting it above the mythic, but you could probably change the two depending on your playstyle or something. Next we have the infantry rifle. Looking at it now, I could put the exotic burst pulse rifle and the mythic pulse rifle above the infantry rifle. I'm not gonna change anything though right now, like I said with the primal assault rifle. But the purple and gold infantry rifle are kind of insane. If you're super accurate, you can just beam people and do lots of damage. It's super good. They're one of the only assault rifles to keep the ×2 headshot multiplier after the nerf in Chapter 2 Season 3 to 1.5 times, I believe it is. The infantry rifle stayed at ×2, which is one of the reasons why it's really good. Like 88 damage headshots, super fast, like boom, 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 3 shots to kill, dead. It's if you get the 3 headshots, of course. Of course, you have to be accurate, and that's why some people might put it lower. I'm pretty accurate, I'd say, with my shots, which is why I put it up pretty high. But if you miss your shots, then it's not great, especially since you can't use it as a spray weapon really, which means it's bad at close range, and its bloom is bad if you don't ADS, which I don't know why you would want to just not ADS, but whatever. But yeah, overall the purple and gold infantry rifle, really good weapon. At the top of great tier we have the Scar. I just decided to put the Scar up in the top because it's one of the most versatile assault rifles. It's the original assault rifle. It's just a really good weapon. It used to be super OP back in Chapter 1 Season 0, where it used to do 39 damage and have a 2.5 times headshot multiplier for 98 damage headshots, which is two more damage than the original gold AK from Chapter 1 Season 6, which used to do 96 damage headshots, but it was a Scar, so it shot super fast, and there was no damage fall off at the time in Chapter 1 Season 0. So you could just spray and then do so much damage, especially with the 39 damage body shots as well. But we're not talking about that Scar. We're talking about the current Scar. The damage headshot got nerfed in Chapter 2 Season 3, but still it's just super reliable. It's a classic, really good weapon. Up to the OP tier. They might not be classified as OP, but I'm putting them up there because I feel like they're better than the ones in the great tier. Like the AUG, some people might say the AUG is not OP. To be honest, I don't know if I would consider it OP or not, but I think it's better than the Scar, actually, especially if you're accurate. Like 37 damage for a gold AUG, and then just 2-round burst, boom, boom, super accurate, extra zoom and everything. It can just beam people. Really good weapon. I do miss the 3-round bursts quite a lot, like at least the 3-round burst AUG from Chapter 2 Season 1 and 2. I feel like they should bring a variant of that back, but like a different weapon model and sounds and all that. But like have the exact same stats as the FAMAS and AUG from Chapter 2 Season 1 and 2, where they were a 3-round burst. But like even when they were a 3-round burst, I'd say it was down in great tier with the Scar. I don't know if I would put it above or below. But the current AUG, I'd say, is probably better than the Scar. Especially when we talk about the mythic ones that we're going to talk about in a moment. Actually, speaking of mythic AUG, here we go. This is Ocean's mythic AUG, not Sloan's from this season. This is from Chapter 2 Season 3. So, the interesting thing about this AUG is it used to do the same amount of damage as the gold. Like when it first came out, I believe, and do 37. The thing about this AUG is that it has 30 shots instead of 20. And that was really about it until they buffed the damage to 39 later in Season 3. And that's where it became really good. But to be honest, like the other weapons in the OP tier are still probably better. But you might question why why Sloan's mythic AUG is up in OP ×2. I'll explain that later. But overall, both of the AUGs here, insanely good. Really good weapons. Next we have the sideways minigun, which I think is worse than the normal minigun, but still really good. Really, really good. When it's not in its overcharged mode, it's kind of inaccurate and shoots slower and doesn't do much damage to builds, but once you get to that overcharge, is when it gets more accurate and it beams people in builds and all that, which is quite a good tool to have, especially since you can just get you have an entire team of sideways miniguns. It's kind of insane in team modes, but in general, this weapon is insane and it can beam people. Really good. Next we have the LMG, a classic from Chapter 1 Season 3, and it just beams people. It has you pretty much never have to reload because it has 100 bullets. 25 damage, 26 damage if it's purple, and it just destroy people. You can kill people in less than a second. It has both of them have DPSs of over 200 or 200 exact for the blue. But yeah, the LMG is just kind of insane, and it just does lots of damage. Really good weapon. Next we have the normal minigun. To be honest, I miss when the minigun was like never overheated, because that's when that was the OG times with me and Gabinator, and he abused it all the time and used it all the time. Especially when the headshot multiplier was still busted. I don't remember if it was 2.5 times, but it was something, and used to do 47 headshot damage, and it was kind of insane. And then they nerfed the headshot multiplier, and then they reworked the minigun in season 7 to the version it is now, with where it shoots fast, it shoots faster, does more damage, but it overheats after a bit of time. But still, the minigun is a laser and destroys people, even now. And because of that, I'm putting it up in the top of OP tier. Going on to OP times 2, we have Sloan's Mythic AUG. Now, some of y'all might be questioning, why is this AUG higher than the others? And while Sloan's Mythic AUG does have less shots than Ocean's, it has 21 shots to be specific, which makes no sense because it's a 2-round burst, but whatever. What makes it just, they also do the same amount of damage, both 39, but what makes Sloan's much more insane and busted is that it has a faster fire rate than the normal AUGs, like at 4 point something compared to the normal AUGs 3.95. I'm pretty sure Sloan's is like 4.5 or 4.35, something like that. It's insane, and you can beam people from like across the map because the AUG has the zoom, like I said earlier, and it just beams people. Like, you can use this thing up close, and like it just beams people. Like, the faster fire rate just makes it insane. And because of that, I'm putting in OP times 2. Really insane weapon. And it's also super hard to fight Sloan because she just beams people with it. So it's even super hard to get this mythic as well. Next we have the Mythic Sideways Minigun, which is really, really good. 24 damage with the same attributes as the normal Sideways Minigun, and you just beam people once you get into that overcharged mode. Yeah, it's kind of weird how the Mythic Sideways Minigun is all the way up there, and then the Mythic Sideways Assault Rifle is all the way down there. Rip the Sideways Assault Rifle. Please buff it. But yeah, it's just insane. Now, Brutus's minigun from Chapter 2, Season 2. It actually has the same amount of damage as the normal minigun. The only difference is that Brutus's is much more accurate, and it winds up faster so you can start shooting it faster. You might be able to shoot it for longer. I'm not sure about that one though. But it's just super insane, super good. It destroys people's builds and just people in general. It's just insane, really good. Now we have Midas's drum gun. This thing is well, I should say this thing was a laser because we don't have access to it anymore. But it was insane. 250 DPS it had. It reminded people of the original drum gun, and that's how you know this thing is busted. It's super insane, especially when controller players ran wild in Chapter 2, Season 2, and people would just destroy until they nerfed it in Season 3. But yeah, these weapons, all of the 3 top weapons were scary in the hands of a controller player back in Chapter 2, Season 2. And it was super scary. But yeah, the drum gun just melted people. It was insane. Really good, and that's why I feel like it's the second best quote-unquote assault rifle, because like I said, Epic has classified a drum gun as SMG and all that, blah blah blah. So I'm putting it in both, like I said. But I decided to put Sky's Scar in the top as the best assault rifle, because the faster fire rate, I believe it was a 6 fire rate or something. It was something like that. But it had a higher fire rate, 37 damage. It just beamed people, and also since it was high rarity, that automatically means better bloom. So yeah, more accurate, more damage, higher fire rate, insane, really good assault rifle, probably the best in the entire game. It just melted people, really good. I miss this. I miss it. And also, what made it amazing is that you also got the infinite mythic grappler as well, along with it, making the shark like the best POI in the game in Chapter 2, Season 2. But yeah, insane, probably the best assault rifle we've ever had. that is my Fortnite assault rifles tier list. I'm gonna do more tier lists on like shotguns, SMGs, all that. And like I said, this is my assault rifle tier list. Tell me like what y'all think like about certain assault rifles or whatever in the comments below if you'd like, of course. Y'all might be wondering like where is the original FAMAS, the 3-round burst, and the original burst from chapter 1? I didn't even think about it. Like I don't even have them downloaded here. Just so people don't get mad at me. The original purple and gold from Moss in the good tier and the original burst in Met tier, somewhere in there. I'm not gonna come up with it because they're not in the game anymore. They literally don't exist. But if y'all were curious, if they would go in those tiers. And yeah, if you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all guys next time. Bye bye.